Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about transit Neptune conjunct one's natal Mars. Now, when you have transits that involve Neptune, it can be about dissipation, idealism, sometimes unrealism, being unrealistic, inspiration, deception, duplicity. When you have transit Neptune conjoin one's natal Mars, well, this may manifest in dissipation, dissolving. It could be idealism, inspiration, even deception and duplicity. Could be overly idealistic about one's sexual drive. If this is an older person that's having this transit as an example, it could be something too where it could be the dissolving or dissipation of one's sexual energy. You may feel more like fantasizing in the mind rather than actually performing maybe at this time, if you understand what I'm saying. But and also, I mean, Mars is connected with our drive and motivation. You might feel like, a little bit lethargic at this time and that you don't really have that motivation and drive than you ordinarily do. But at the same time, remember that Neptune is also about inspiration. And the fact that Mars is about motivation and drive, it could also be expressed in being a very inspirational period to go put something into action. Remember, when we're talking about conjunctions, they can be neutral, they can be bad, or they can be good. A lot of it is predicated independent on the aspects they make to other points in one's chart. Um, can also be a time too where there might be um, maybe a diffusing or dissolving of one's anger at this time, or there might be battles that are connected with spirituality or something with the metaphysical at this time. Maybe the situation with people that are less fortunate may be a little more contentious, more so than usual. It can also be a time too where, I mean, when you look at Mars as well, Mars is also associated with aggression and assertiveness. And it might be a time where you might feel more inspired to really do something that requires certain aggression, certain assertive energy. But it could also be a time where that energy itself, that expression, may be more depleted, more so than usual, and it could also manifest in procrastinating on taking action, on being assertive in a situation and not speaking up, perhaps when you may need to. Now, also, too, Mars is connected with leadership, and the thing is, it could mean this could manifest in a multitude of ways. It could be doing something Neptune related that is connected with leadership prowess and ability. It could be something with the metaphysical, which includes astrology, or maybe being the head of some chemical corporation, as another example. Doing something uh, as another example, like being like a if they have this position like a head photographer or somebody that has their own business, that company that's Neptune related. It could even be something like fantasy books or fantasy games. There'll also be a time to remember that Mars is also associated with surgery, so it might be some surgical procedure may be needed on something Neptune related, like the foot or the toes. It could also be something too where your surgery might require a little more anesthesia than usual at this time. Remember that Neptune is associated with chemicals. It could be anesthesia, whatever it is that they put in you to basically knock you out when you have the surgical procedure done. You may need a little more than this at this time because that's what Neptune is about, and you have, of course, the intensifying energy hitting Mars. Could also be a time too as well where you look at Mars as also, I mean, it's connected with our energy and vitality. So you might feel your energy at this time might be a little more depleted and dissipated, more so than usual. It could be a time where also as well where could also be a very inspirational period to do something that might require certain vitality and energy. But some Taurus say it could be something that requires more endurance, something where you can pace yourself. It could be like long endurance running, or starting a workout exercise program where you're lifting weights but doing it in a very methodical manner, as another example. It could also be a time to remember that Mars is associated with the head, the skull, and the face. So it could be a time too where there might be some irritation or inflammation that you may deal with on the skull or the face or the head. It can be uh, something where I'm sorry, what I should say is it could be Neptune could be about chemicals. Some cases it could be about a chemical, you know, um, spill, and maybe something gets on your head, it gets on your skull or in the facial area at this time. It can be something too when you look at, Neptune can be connected with disease, so it could be a very critical point, and Mars being connected with the head, the skull, the face, and also sexual organs. It's a time to really be prudent as far as this goes, because there might be something that could come up that could denote this. Because remember that a lot of people won't even have that transit in their lifetime, so it's very significant. No one's going to have Neptune traverse all 12 houses, their whole chart, in their lifetime. It's a very, very protracted and long transit, to say the absolute least. Um, could also be a time too. I mean, you're talking about Mars could be connected with injuries as well. So it can be something that can be a Neptune type injury. It could be something with the feet or the toes. Um, it could also be, Mars could also be connected with irritations. So it could be a time on the positive end, the fact that Neptune is dissolving and dissipating energy, and may also manifest in the dissolving of these irritations, and getting maybe, during this time, it could be expressed that way in some cases. Now, also, this is a time too where, Mars is about combat and confrontation as well. Neptune can be connected with escapism. It might be a time where you might try to avoid combat and confrontation at all, by all measures, and you might find it be a time where you might be more inclined to solitude or seclusion as opposed to confronting something. And Mars is also connected with action as well. So it might be a time where you might be procrastinating on taking action in a certain situation. Another way this can manifest and pan out is that there could also be a lot of confusion in matters connected with action at this time. Now, let's say, for example, if this falls in um, Pisces in the fifth house in the natal chart, it could be maybe confusion taking action, or some procrastination in taking action, creating maybe a hypothetical simulated, which is Neptune. Oh, I'm sorry, I should say, let's say if it's in Sagittarius, this transit falls in Sagittarius in the fifth house as an example. It could be about maybe procrastinating, creating a hypothetical, or simulated, which is Neptune, something sports related, which is Sagittarius, and a game, which is the fifth house. At this time too, it could also be an opportunity to dissolve a contentious or combative situation at this time. And let's say if it's in Pisces in the 11th house, for example, it might be something connected with betrayal or deception, or maybe more procrastination even, that may have involved a friend or somebody that was, that's prominent in some group, club, or organization. Could also be that something Neptune related at this time might actually give you drive and motivation. It could be very just simply being more inspired to be driven and motivated. It could be somebody maybe that is less fortunate than yourself, somebody that might be maybe impoverished or homeless or hungry, or somebody that is facing oppression in a state of where they're destitute. It could be somebody that might be in a Neptune-like field, such as like the metaphysical, which includes astrology. It could be somebody in poetry or chemistry or photography, as some other examples. Um, let's say it could also be a time where you might be inspired more to express courage at this time, and it may be something Let's say if this falls in the zodiac sign Cancer in the second house as an example. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, let's say if it falls in the zodiac sign Cancer in the second house as an example, it could manifest in protecting, which is Cancer energy, Cancerian energy, protecting the family, which is Cancer energy, I should say, and something that you really value as well and might make you feel better about yourself and figures prominently in your self-esteem, self-worth, and how you feel about yourself. It could be more unrealistic at this time that what you may try to do physically. Remember that Neptune can be connected with self-deception. So if it's in Taurus as an example, going back to that sign as an example, it could be something with endurance running or trying to do a lot of very methodically working out, something where one may pace themselves in, but it's a thing where people have to really be careful at this time, because Neptune is not just about deception; it's about self-deception, and it could be people being overly unrealistic about what they can actually do on a physical level. Now, in some isolated cases, it could also be expressed in the dissolving, the weakening of muscles. Now, because Mars can be connected with muscles, and when you say if it's in Gemini as an example, it could be something with the triceps or biceps, um, because that's part of the arm, of course, and the arms are associated with Gemini. Again, going back to injuries, it could be an injury that one may have succumbed to. That may be something with the feet or the toes, or there may be a physical issue that's associated with the lymphatic or immune system at this time as well. But remember that this is also a time too where one has to be careful that Neptune is connected with imprisonment. So it might be something where it could increase the propensity to some degree as being imprisoned or incarcerated for a Mars-related crime, which is generally going to be it's something of a volatile nature. It could be gunfire as an example, or some aggravated assault and battery as another example. If it's in the fourth house, it could be something for something domestic related. But but it's really a time too where you may also find yourself standing up. I mean, Mars is confrontational energy, of course, and Neptune is the less fortunate. So you might find yourself in a situation where you're standing up more for somebody that is less fortunate, somebody that could be impoverished, oppressed, homeless, or hungry at this time. And really, that's really about what I want to get at this time as far as this transit goes. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.